Good evening, guys, and happy Friday to all of your sunshiny faces, guys. I am so tired. I'm going to go get in the shower and get to bed. I'm pretty sure it is after, I don't even know where my clock is anymore. Pretty sure it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning, honestly. We didn't get back to the school after the football game until like 11 something, close to midnight. We left the school then because they had like the coaches meeting afterwards. We left the school at like around 1 o'clock in the morning. So, and we've been home now for a little while, but I need to take a shower and get to bed because, like I said, it is super late. I actually got up somewhat early. I told my dad to call me at 8 o'clock this morning so I could get up, so I had time, like, you know, to like get everything done, just kind of like, you know, because like if I wake up late, like the game normally again too is like 3 o'clock. If I wake up late, like, you know, 11 o'clock, noon or something like that, like really late, I only have like 2-3 hours to like be ready by, you know, before I need to like be ready to leave. So even like today I got up at about 10 o'clock, which was sort of enough time, but I still kind of felt rushed. I would have liked to have been up earlier, but my dad never ended up calling me. I was like, can you make sure you call me just so that I get up, like, you know, and he didn't call me. So I woke up at about 10 o'clock on my own, and then I ended up, but I went to bed so late last night because I could not fall asleep. So anyways, though, we ended up going to the school at about 3:30 or so, and then at about 4:15 I think our school bus left, which was the varsity one, and then we ended up going, and the frost off team were already there. We got, again, it was like an hour away, and the bus ride was not that bad. It didn't even feel that long, and like, again, I didn't feel that sore from like sitting on the uncomfortable bus seats for like an hour. Like, it wasn't that bad. The problem was it was so hot inside the bus. It was ridiculous, and I don't know why. So the first away game that we had, no, that was not last week. Last week's game, okay, the other one that was like an hour away though, that day it was actually kind of cool out, and the game, that was like the day where I was actually bundled up and like wearing warm clothes and everything like that because it was kind of cold. But then last week's game, it was hot, but the bus ride was not that long. The other one was like an hour away or whatever. Today's, it was hot and it was an hour away, so the bus ride was like ridiculous. I honestly, like, I kept wanting to like just like lay my hands out, like to kind of, you know, because I was like wearing this and shorts, so I'm like in long sleeves, so I had like them rolled all the way up. I would like kept trying to like put my arms like out on like the bus seat because like I had the whole like bus seat to myself, so I kept trying to like put them out, but for some reason the seats were hotter than my body temperature, because then when I like rested them like on, because my hands were like so hot, but then like I rest them like on my leg or something like that, and I like think like, oh, if I do that though, it's like my body heats, like it's gonna make it feel hot, my hands feel even hotter, and it was like the exact opposite. I was like, I need to actually like rest them on myself so that it doesn't feel as hot as the bench seat did, and like putting them like on the you know, like on the like the wall like next to me and stuff like that. Like the entire bus, every inch of the bus just felt hot, even like with the windows open and stuff like that. And then when we were at the game, when I was sitting there at one point, like it was kind of humid a little bit too, which was the other problem, because it did rain a slight bit this morning at like 5 o'clock. And then, so it was like, there was a little bit of humidity, but like I was sitting in, again, in my like chair in the end zone doing the camera, and there was like this one point where like I could feel like the like this cold kind of breeze, but it was like not like even a breeze, it was like just kind of like a pocket of air every once in a while, be like feel really cold, and it was like only normally like on my like legs and stuff like that. Like it was never like above, like, you know, like on my face or my arms or anything like that. But it was like, because it started to get like pretty cool, like I think it finally dropped to like close to 70 maybe by the end of the game. And the thing was, guys, again, because we were, again, we're an hour away. Well, the frost off game ended up taking a while. They ended up winning. I had to grab my phone because I was actually texting updates of the score and everything like that in our like family group chat. But the final for the freshman and sophomore team was 16-12. They ended up having, Jack said, one interception. I was there, I saw that. He said there was like 3 fumble recoveries before that, before I got there, and they were up 8-0 when I got there in like the second quarter, so it was sometime before halftime. But then, like, again, I watched through the whole rest of the game, and I know I saw the one interception. I think it was right before halftime also. But I think that, again, based on the score, our kids ended up getting both 2-point conversions, and theirs didn't, so that's why they had 12 when we had 16 was the final. So they won, the freshman sophomore won their first game ever, for this season. So they're 1-3 on the season, and that was pretty cool. So they were all like really hyped up and, again, excited about that. But the game felt like it took a little long, and also too, Jack was telling me that they were having a problem with their bus leaving, so I don't know if they also got there late, but it was around the same time as like last week. We got there a little bit before halftime for the freshman sophomore team last week, like the varsity did. So I feel like it shouldn't have taken that long, but maybe because it was a close game, that's why, like, it felt like it went by, like, or it felt like it went longer. So the game didn't start for us until I think 7:45, but it was also the team that we were playing their homecoming, so they had like a couple little things they were doing like ahead of time. I think the game was supposed to start at 7, then they agreed to like have it start at 7:30 just because of, like, again, the festivity stuff or whatever that they had going on. But because the football game from the freshman sophomore game was running late anyway, it was like they had to add more time on, so I think it finally started at like 7:45, which again too, we're like an hour away, so it's gonna take us a long time to get home, and then it's starting like almost an hour later after that, versus like when the anticipation of the game actually starting was supposed to be. So it started about 7:45. Then it was a very, very close game, back and forth, back and forth. The end of the game, like, it was kind of crazy. We ended up having 2 interceptions by the same kid. One was earlier in the game, the other one was huge at the end of the game. Final was 43-35. We ended up winning by a touchdown and an extra point. A 2-point conversion. So we had tried a 2-point, or we got our first, I think we scored first, and we got a field goal, so we were up like 7-0. Then the other team came and they tied it up. I think after the first quarter it was tied 7-7. Then at halftime, or maybe we were up possibly 14-7 at the end of the first. And again too, I know we had 1 interception at that point, I think, or before the halftime. Then at halftime it was tied up, I think 27, maybe 27. I can, again, double check, I guess, what I ended up sending. So the end of the first, it was 7-7. At halftime, they were up 19-14. And then at the end of the third quarter, it was tied. Like I said, by the end of the game, it was 43-35. So again, was like crazy because the way it ended too. Again, it was this kind of constant, like, again, we were up, but like only by a little bit, and then they'd come and like they tied it up several times. I think that at one point they might have had the lead, but I think it was only because we missed, like, so again, we got our first field goal or extra point with the first touchdown that we scored, and then they did as well. But then on the second one, we missed the field goal, and then I think the next time we tried for a 2-point conversion, which we also missed. And then after that, I think we got the 2-point conversions that we tried on every other touchdown after that, which I think maybe was 2 or 3 other ones afterwards. So at one point, I think they might have been up, but if they were, I think it was 19-20 they were up at one point. It was only by 1 point. And then again too, it came down to this whole like, okay, now we're like up, we were up again, but then it was only like 5 points, and then it was just this like kind of back and forth thing. So like I said, at the very end of the game, we scored, and it was like 3 minutes left. They were like marching downfield. We had them stopped. It was 4th down and like, I don't know, 5 or something like that. And we ended up getting, and they ended up throwing a pass and they missed it, but that we ended up getting called for roughing the passer. So they get 15 yards plus a fresh set of downs, and we're like, oh my goodness, you know, like again, my thought is, I'm thinking because our offense was able to easily score, but the defense was like, it actually made this huge stop though earlier in the game. Like I think it was actually on the other team's first drive of the second half. They ended up making a huge like goal line stand where it was like literally like 1st and like inches into the goal, and our kids ended up eventually pushing them back where they actually lost 5 yards. And I was like, oh my gosh, like defense, that is awesome, because some of the bigger, like when they had more field to work with, our kids kept giving up like kind of not big plays, but like chunks of yards. Like it might be like 15 yards, or like, you know, sometimes it'll only be like 5, but then it'd be like 5 and like 8 or something like that. So like then they'd have the first down. So again, it was kind of like that on defense, where like we might be able to stop them for like a couple of like downs maybe, but then they'd figure out like a way to kind of like string something, even if it was small, kind of together. And so it was just kind of tough. Other times they did break things. Like I don't think they had huge plays, but they might end up getting like, again, like a 30-yard, you know, like pass or something like that, but nothing where it was like, oh, they got like an 80-yard run or something. We had a huge pass that was probably over 50 yards, I think. There was again another couple runs that we had that were bigger chunks than I think what the other team had. Like we had more big chunk plays than the other team did, but they were able to still, you know, move the ball against us. So if there's like 3 minutes left, I'm like, okay, just let them score, because at this point, if we can score, and you know, or if they score and they tie it up, we could still, and or if we stop them on the 2-point conversion, which means that they only get, you know, they'll be 2 points down. I was like, that's still good. I was like, so honestly, just let them score, because our offense can easily just run down the field in probably, you know, again, 30 seconds, and we'll still have too much time left on the clock, you know, for them to score. But I was like, the worst that they could do, because we were up by 8, I was like, the worst they can do is tie it up right now. So I was like, just like let them score at this point, because again, our defense has stopped them on, you know, again, 4th down, and then they ended up though getting the roughing the passer, and I was like, okay, great. So now they have a fresh set of downs, they're 15 yards closer. And this is why I'm like, just let him score, just let him score. So they tried for one play. I think they tried maybe a pass and it was incomplete or something like that, or they tried to run and I think we stopped them. It was like no gain or whatever. And then they tried for a pass play, and this kid that had the pick earlier, he's also a running back, he ended up getting another interception, like crucial minutes in the game. Like I said, there was like 2.5 minutes left at this point, and he got the interception, and I was like, oh my gosh, like we got so lucky. Then we were able to just kind of like, you know, again, run the clock down at that point. We weren't trying for anything like too crazy. We weren't really trying to like, you know, like get downfield, you know, touchdown or anything like that. Like they didn't need to, so they were just kind of like, again, got a couple first downs, ended up running out the clock. But oh my goodness, guys. So I heard a couple of the kids say like last year, I don't think it was a homecoming game last year, but it was like one of the first game. It might have actually been the first win of the season though for us. I think it was our first home game, and they won in overtime against this team that has been like kind of a thorn in our side, because like they've been always really close with us, but like they've always just one-upped us. Like they've always, like we've always managed to kind of keep things kind of close with them, but we never able to like beat them. So we ended up beating them last year in overtime. And I heard like all the kids on the sidelines, the kids that like played in that game last year, they were like, this was better than last year's overtime win against, you know, the other school, and like this kind of stuff. Like this one was better, and we've never played this school before, and like we assumed that they were gonna kind of be like one of those like similar to the team that we had last year, but we don't play the team that we played last year, the one we won in overtime, because our conference is kind of realigned and stuff like that. So we have a couple games where, you know, like, again, the schools look different and stuff like that. So this school that we played is now in our conference. And, but I also don't know, because our conference, and then there's like two sections of our conference, like East and West as well. So because of that, also, like, things can look different. Like, I didn't even realize too, I think since Matthew's freshman year, possibly, they've been in this division, or even, actually Matthew's freshman year, they weren't, possibly, or maybe it was my senior year, I don't remember, but like they have like switched almost every year from like East and West. We have, for some weird reason, but most of the schools have always been in the same. But like we might get like one more school in our like conference, but like we'll be in like East, and then we'll have like, you know, again, a couple of the, and I don't even know if they call it East and West. I think they call it that now. But like we used to have it where like, oh, we get like maybe one different school, or like a new school joining, because I know that there's one team that like Jack's, I think, beat his senior year, or maybe his sophomore year. I think they beat them, and they lost to him their senior year. And then last year, when they played which Jack wasn't in school for that year though, but we ended up beating them as well, I know. But now they're, I think, out of our conference. No, we played them the last game of the season, actually. When Matthew was in school, when we were in the same division, they weren't, but I think that they were just in the other section of like our conference or whatever, like in a different division or something like that. It's kind of weird, but like I said, I don't know, it's just like things look different now, and we have different schools and stuff like that, even though we're pretty much in the same conference. It just might be different divisions. But like this school, I know, wasn't in either of them, like East or the West, you know, like division, or, you know, part of that conference or whatever. So anyways, like I said, it's a huge win because we're 3-1 on the season, which, like, again, our high school has not done in so long. Like, I mean, I don't even actually know when the last time we went 3, like, it's been since 2003 that we've been we're 2-0 on the season, up until last week. Then we lost, and then this week when we won, so now we're 3-1. It's been a while since we've had a 3-1 record, I'm gonna assume, as well. I actually don't know when the last time we would have had a 3-1 record is, because a lot of times it was like, oh, we'd lose. Like, I went through a lot of like the rankings and stuff like that. It's all like on IHSA's website. So I go through and I was looking at this, you know, again, this up when we were 2-0, and like a lot of times it was like, oh, like a team like lost 2 like at the beginning of the season and stuff like that. Like, it was very rare that, like, or they win like 2 and then they would like lose the rest and win like 1 more at the end of the season or something like that. So we haven't really had like a 3-1 record either. But again, the cool thing is that both the Frostoff and the varsity ended up sweeping today, so they both won, and the varsity's 3-1, which puts us in a really good position to make the playoffs again this year already, just based on like also, again, who we still have left to play as well. And next week might be one of the tough ones to play, because we're playing a pretty decent school, and this one again too was one of those ones where it's like, if we can make this, we probably should, if we can win this game, we probably should be able to, you know, again, go probably 5-4 at least on the season again as well. Maybe even do better would be awesome, but at least should probably be able to do that, and should make it to the playoffs again this year more than likely, which will be awesome, because 2 years back to back, I genuinely don't know the last time that happened, because I think I told you guys it's been 20 years, I think, since the last time that we went to the playoffs up until last year. And the last time that we went back to back, I don't think that happened like the year prior, the year after, or whatever. So I want to say that that was even longer ago. Like that the last time we went to playoffs 2 years back to back. Actually, that might have been. It might have been that year and the year prior, actually, but 3 years in a row. Let's see if we can do that too. That would be really awesome. Anyways, like I said, I am absolutely exhausted. That words aren't even wanting to come out and make sense anymore, but I am very tired, and I want to get to bed, because like I said, I was up early-ish this morning, also considering how late I went to bed last night, and also ended up waking up, you know, and like now it's really late and I went through a whole 2 hours on a bus ride. You know, like a regular school bus too. It wasn't even nice buses or anything like that. Regular old school buses for 2 hours, and in the heat. The heat was a part that was not fun at all. Like, also too, when I got to the Frost Off game, I was standing on the sidelines and I was like in the sun, and I was like, this is unbearable. So I ended up going standing over by my camera, because at one point it ended up getting in the shade, like because like they had like a tree line. So it's like, I'm gonna stay over here by where my camera is, even though I didn't need it at that time because it was still the Frost Off game. And then, you know, so I was like, I'm just staying over here in the shade because it's too hot. But I think Sunday it's supposed to rain, and then it's supposed to get cooler, and we're supposed to be in like the 70s or so. So like this like 80+ degree weather that we've had isn't supposed to really hang around, and we're supposed to have what looks like more fall weather. 70 is still kind of warm for it being fall, but it's a lot cooler, which is nice. So anyways, like I said, taking a shower, getting to bed. I will see you guys in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.